All right. So first and foremost, we had the news yesterday break that the Jets fired their GM, Joe Douglas. And we talked about this on the huddle yesterday, TD. And this kind of was an expected move, but it's just a matter of when it was going to happen, during the season or after the season. I knew the Jets were going to move on, but there's a lot more clarity of what's been going on behind the closed doors. There's an article that we're going to get deeper into, but I just want to get your thoughts of the Jets firing Joe Douglas really quick, and what do you think is next for Aaron Rodgers? And I just want to remind you, remember when we had a whole topic on Wake Up and Ball last week that Aaron Rodgers is returning?
Mm-hmm.
This was the graphic for it. Aaron Rodgers playing next year. Rodgers says he thinks so. So I just want to make sure this is clear. This was the topic last week. And this is from Aaron Rodgers' mouth, saying that he wants to play. Now there's reports saying that the Jets don't want him back. Therefore, that he may not be a quarterback for the New York Jets any longer after the season. So last week we heard from Rodgers saying he wants to play. Now we're hearing the Jets may not want him back after firing Douglas, and after hearing more about it, we're going to get deep into all the details. But why don't you give us your thoughts of the Jets firing Joe Douglas before we get into Woody Johnson and all that?
Well, there's chaos in that front office. There's chaos from the ownership to the general manager to the previous head coach. And at the end of the day, the owner runs the show. He calls the shots. Something wasn't adding up for him, and he went ahead and moved on from Salah. Still, things didn't look right. He moved on from Joe Douglas, and he's looking to usher in a new era for New York Jets football, a whole new era, whole new regime, whole new power change at the top. And with that being said, it's almost like he's punting on the current situation because he doesn't feel like it was handled properly from the coach and the general managers. Obviously, there were decisions that he may have wanted to be made that weren't made, and these guys put their job on the line for it, and it didn't work out, and that's what gets you fired. Ultimately, that's what gets you fired, because at the end of the day, in today's NFL, the owners typically sometimes have a lot to do with the decisions as well, and not all teams. Like Miami owner doesn't really, but for the most part, owners do. So when you suggest something and they're not seeing it that way, they go with what you say, but you're on the hook now. It got to turn out the way you want it. And something didn't. And that's why Douglas and Salah is out of the building.
Yeah. And there's a lot of details we're going to get into. Guys, do us a favor. Simply hit the like button on your way in if you are waking up and balling with us. We appreciate that big time because TD and I are really trying to build something special here on our Roundtable Sports main network. And that starts right here on Wake Up and Ball. You guys are watching the first ever show that is a usual show. And it's been a joy. I'm not going to lie, man. It's been a joy to wake up and ball every single morning. So without further ado, let's get into what actually is going on here. Okay? Let's get into what's actually going on.
Allegedly is going on.
Allegedly, what's going on, man? There's a lot of alleged. Flick Shorts, another super chat. TD, don't let him talk anything good for the Jets.
I got you, bro.
TD can't check me. I only check him. That's the truth.
We gonna see, Richie.
All right, so let's just get into it, man. Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers, according to The Athletic. Woody Johnson has been calling all of the shots, all right? And now we are going to pass the team over to Christopher Johnson eventually when he leaves us yet again. Thank you, Woody, for that. Now, what I want to get into with you guys is the details of this article because it really, really exposes the truth, alleged truth of what's going on. So this is an article written on The Athletic. This is written by Diana Rossini and Zach Rosenblatt. Again, we don't know what's true or not, but this is definitely giving us some inside of behind the scenes with the New York Jets. So we're going to go through the article, TD, and kind of really unpack what we're reading here, all right? Because it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark. And the first part of the article I think we should highlight is that Woody Johnson seems to be plugged in. And by the way, I theorized this, and I was correct if this is true, that Woody Johnson literally is plugged into social media and is allowing social media to impact decisions. Okay, so let me start off with that because that broke my brain. It broke my brain. I made that as a joke. I'm like, yeah, bro, Woody's probably on Twitter listening to us as Jets fans, and that's what's influencing his decision. So here it is. In last offseason free agency, when offensive tackle Tyron Smith and wide receiver Mike Williams lingered after initial wave of free agent signings, the Jets pursued both. Multiple team sources believe that this was a matter of Johnson's preoccupation with social media factoring into the decision-making. Douglas went along. So what's your thoughts of that? Because Woody Johnson's very active on X, and it feels like whatever the fans are saying he's doing on social media, and he's pleasing us because we're the customers, and he wants to please those fans instead of actually doing stuff that will benefit the Jets winning. What's your thoughts of that part of the article?
The only thing I take from it,
and this isn't, by the way, not the first person to say this. Albert Breer, NFL insider, he said this on Prime when the Jets were on Thursday Night Football. So this is not the first person to say that Woody Johnson is, listening into social media, making that into decisions.
No, I think I don't take much from it, Richie, because here's what I just read. Multiple team sources believe this was a matter of Johnson. Believe they're just personal opinion. They believe, man, he listening to the social media. That's all this is. He believes
that rationalizes it because his decisions making are ridiculous. So it has to be. What else would be the reason?
It makes sense to them. So they're just putting 1 + 1. They're making it 2.5, but it's close to 2. So it got to be. That's all this is. We don't know. At the end of the day, Jets fans and Jets are trying to find answers right now. They're trying to understand where the breakdown happened. And now you're getting reports believed, multiple sources believe. No, who gonna say it? Who gonna stand out and say this is what happened? See, that's what this is a lot of right now. A whole bunch of this is what I believe happened. I believe. At the end of the day, we weren't in the building. And Woody Johnson could have had all the right decisions, and maybe he wanted to make this move because he believed it was the right one. But to say he did it because social media, and listen, Richie, social media in the world were calling for these things to happen, right? Right? Maybe he felt the same way. Maybe social media and everybody like you and I, we were on to something, and he agreed.
Yeah, but come on, you're telling me that an owner is listening to the pulse of the fan base and letting that be like he's like, hey, Joe Douglas, the fans want this, and Douglas is like, I don't know if we should do that, but Woody's like, no, we need to do it.
Nobody said he said the fans want this. It's easy, Richie. If Richie goes out and say, I don't want Rodgers next year, and Joe Douglas, without listening to Richie, may say to himself, I don't want Rodgers next year. Just because he say, I don't want Rodgers next year, does that mean I have a right to say, hey, he listening to Richie and the fan base? No, he just may have agreed with the public's opinion. And it was coincidence. And matter of fact, if anything, isn't that a good sign?
Yeah, but like what they were referring to with the free agency is, do you remember the whole sandwich thing with Mike Williams?
Yeah.
The social media was pressuring the Jets. Like every Jets fan was pressuring. We even had a fan send Mike Williams a damn sandwich. And that was before we signed Mike Williams. He didn't sign. So they're saying, like, Woody Johnson saw all of the fans so excited, like, don't let Tyron Smith or Mike Williams leave. And that was, like, the deciding factor. And the other moves that Joe Douglas wanted to do, he tried to trade for Jerry Jeudy, and Woody Johnson vetoed it. Woody Johnson also, and this is interesting, remember the whole situation of the Jets not extending Bryce Huff? Joe Douglas had an offer on the table that he was going to talk to Huff's agent, and according to this article, Woody Johnson vetoed it. Now, in hindsight, Huff isn't really playing well, but the reality is everything that Joe Douglas wanted to do, it didn't seem like he was able to do because Woody Johnson stepped in and kept vetoing everything that he wanted to do. All right, so that's another thing. So getting into the real headliner of this article, which is Woody Johnson wanting to bench Aaron Rodgers, this is really interesting because I just find this really hard to believe, TD. I really do. Like, this is the part of the article, like, okay, there has to be some lies in here, like, because if this is all true, I don't know. We're talking about a team, TD. Let me add context to where the Jets were when Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers, okay? It was after the loss to the Denver Broncos, the 10-9 loss. And the New York Jets were 2-2. And you know that what game happened before the Denver game? The game against the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. Remember that one? That was the highlight of Aaron Rodgers' Jets career when he blew out the Patriots. Everyone was like, oh, vintage Rodgers is back. I was saying that. We were all excited. 2-game winning streak. And then they go home, lose to the Broncos. And now you're telling me that Johnson suggested to the coaches that they bench Aaron Rodgers in favor of Tyrod Taylor because he felt Rodgers' performance was holding the team back? That is really crazy to me. The coaches and Douglas, stunned at this suggestion, talked him out of it and convinced Johnson to stay the course, and benching Rodgers with his pedigree 4 games into the season would not sit well with the locker room. The coaches also felt it would embarrass Rodgers. The idea of benching the future Hall of Famer sounded so absurd that one coach asked whether the owner was serious. So I don't know if that's true or not. And then the next week, right, the coaches and the front office talked Woody Johnson out of trying to bench Aaron Rodgers. And the next week they go to London to face the Vikings, and they lose. And then 2 days later, Woody Johnson fires Robert Saleh. So my theory is like Woody's like, you don't want to listen to me, coach? You don't want to listen to my suggestions? Watch this. You're done. But then my theory is like, okay, then why hasn't Rodgers been benched yet if that's what Woody's been wanting to do from the jump? So what's your thoughts of that? Because that's a lot to unpack.
You know what? I'm glad you we're talking about this. I think everybody's using this opportunity to attack Woody, but I don't see where he's been wrong yet.
Oh, dude, don't even do
Hold
that.
on. I'm talking about this season. I'm not talking about his history, Richie. We're talking about everything that's transpiring right now. So let's break it down. First of all, I don't believe it either, Richie, because, you know, all I'm seeing, that article named everybody that was in the room. And 70% of the people that was in that room, they would never talk about this. But that other 30%, they all been fired pretty much. So they're the only source that you can get. So that's disgruntledness to me. Maybe, right? But let's say it's true. Let's say it's true, Richie, that this report is true. Well, guess what, Richie? How was Aaron Rodgers looking at the beginning of the season?
He had him at 2-2, and he looked pretty good against the Patriots. Not great, of course, right? But
yep.
I think he looks better. He looks worse now than he did at the beginning of the season, to be honest.
So guess what? 5 games in, he ain't getting it done. Why haven't you benched him? You're fired. All right, Douglas, you want to put yours on the line too? Now you fast forward today, he looking worse. You fired. Like, where's he wrong?
Yeah, but don't you understand? But what about your thoughts of Woody Johnson not allowing Joe Douglas to do his job? Basically, he demoted Joe Douglas, and now Woody's the active GM, and he's making football decisions. That is the issue here.
Hold on. What regards didn't he allow him to do his job? Bryce Huff? Bryce Huff ain't playing well.
In free agency.
Bryce Huff ain't playing well. He called it.
He wanted to do all the moves, everything that Joe Douglas has been trying to do. The Hassan Reddick move, everything. He forced his hand to trade for Devontae Adams. Woody Johnson did. Now, that's another part of the article. Woody Johnson forced Douglas to do it. And also, he doesn't care about the picks, right? Woody Johnson just benched our starting safety, Tony Adams, which I don't understand that decision at all.
And is he playing well? Is he playing well?
He was playing right.
Because the defense getting toasted in the secondary.
But my point is, TD, Woody Johnson, all of his moves that he's making is not doing anything positive. It's going the opposite direction. He fired Saleh. Why, TD? Why did he fire Saleh? Because he said in his words that this is going to provide a spark. It did the exact opposite, okay? Whether Saleh is good or not, that doesn't matter, okay? Whether if Saleh was here today and we're still 3-8. My point is, he thought that firing Saleh at the time was going to do something positive. It did the absolute opposite. It made everything worse. And he ripped Joe Douglas out of his job and not allowing him to do his job anymore. And now here we are, firing Joe Douglas, and now they're trying to get a new GM. So my question to you is, who the heck wants to come work for Woody Johnson when he is putting his fingerprints on everything and not allowing his GM to do his job? Because that's what it comes down to.
A coach and a general manager that believe they can get the job done. It's that simple. Because at the end of the day, here's the problem.
These owners are not giving the control to the football minds.
Yeah, they are. He done had control for 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever years, Richie. Like at some point you wear your welcome. Like y'all are taking all the onus off of Salah and Douglas. Y'all act like Salah and Douglas ain't responsible for nothing here. Like that's the problem.
Of course they are, but dude, we're talking about an absolute non-football mind making football decisions that's led to this.
But guess what? The football mind still led to this. The football minds and Douglas and Salah still led to this. Like, that's the problem with Jets fans. Y'all are taking y'all will not hold Woody Johnson or Salah accountable during this whole time. You want to put everything on Douglas. Well, guess what? You're a Jets fan. That's your owner. Ain't nothing you're going to be able to do about that. His brother probably the same. Okay? At the end of the day, when his 4-year appointment up, he's going to be right back there with you anyway, right? So at the end of the day, you need to hold what's in your control to talk about. Really, he ain't selling the team, Richie. So Douglas, you need a general manager because he wasn't stepping in 4 or 5 years ago. You need a general manager.
There's so many people coming out right now that is like roasting. It's not just Jets fans. I hope you realize this is not a Jets fan thing. There's everybody out there that is out there in the NFL media that's clowning Johnson. That's clowning him.
To what end?
That
you think
he strapped Joe Douglas. The last few years, when Woody Johnson came back from the UK, he came in here and vetoed a lot of things that JD wanted to do, to the point where Joe Douglas was sitting there like, what is my job here? If the things I want to do keeps getting vetoed, what is my role as a GM? Like, and he said he talked at the trade deadline. He talked at the trade deadline. He said, quote, I serve at the pleasure of the owner. That's not a culture. Like, what are we doing? Who's going to want to be the GM for this team that serves at the pleasure of an incompetent imbecile of Woody Johnson that does not know anything about football?
Richie, it's called wearing your welcome. When Woody Johnson when Woody Johnson sees what's happening with Sam Darnold now, when Woody Johnson sees what's happening with Zach Wilson, your selection, at some point it's time for me to step in and start questioning everything you do. Start vetoing a few things. You lost your cachet. You made all those bad decisions a few years back. So you lost cachet. So now we're just going to say, oh, Woody wanted to do this and he stepped in. We don't know if that was going to be a good job by Woody. Woody lost his cachet. So now you got to do it collaboratively. Was Woody Johnson really stepping in like he is now 4 years ago, Richie?
No, he wasn't here. He left us. It was a Christopher Johnson. That's who was here.
And guess what he came back to? A whole bunch of failed decisions. By who? By who? So therefore, you can't get mad because the owner want to step in now and start vetoing and having more of a say, whether it's good or bad. But I can't sit here and say, let me leave it up to the football minds because the football minds failing me. I wish the Dolphins owner was like this. You sitting here listening to all these football minds in the front office and they failing you. So at the end of the day, you have to come in, clean house, and get you a new general manager, give him the full trust, and if he breaks that trust in 3 or 4 years, do the same thing and go get another one.
But that part right there, you just lost me. How do we trust that Johnson's going to give the next GM full trust? After seeing all this exposed right now, after all of this exposed, we have so many high-ranked individuals that is plugged into the NFL that are higher than us, TD, both of us, that are roasting the Johnsons that they did not allow Joe Douglas to do his thing properly. How is a GM going to want this job and be like, why would they want Johnson to be their boss? That's what I'm trying to understand. Who's going to want to have the Johnsons as above them if they feel like he's going to control the shots and not me?
Richie, any good general manager, coach, CEO, or whatever it may be, they are going to come to expect I either do my job and allow my superior to trust me, or I fail and don't question when he comes and vetoes me. Like, I keep trying. All I'm saying, Richie, is Douglas earned the vetoes. Johnson wasn't vetoing him 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, because he wasn't here.
Yeah, but Richie, look what he came back. Look what he came back to.
Then why doesn't he prioritize the Jets if he cares so much? Stop leaving us.
Because he's a billionaire. You're one of the many things he got going on.
Yeah, so sell the... Oh,
That
don't
ain't,
even.
no. It ain't gonna happen. No, Richie, trust me. I trust me, Richie. Me and you in the same boat there.
I know he's not gonna do it, but that's the only chance we have.
Love an owner that's just focused on. But would it really matter?
Because look at what the Mets have done. The Mets, we have an owner that came and saved the day. And look at where the Mets are right now, TD. The New York Mets
Where are they? Where are they?
We have an owner that bought the team. The reason